Today, we are sponsored by the Airway Kingdom Network. Feel free to check out the following content: What's Up Bro, Three Amigos, and J&J Productions. Feel free to check out those great content today.
Network 3000 presents.
Hello everyone, I am Timmy here and welcome to the next episode of 3000 Hangouts for tonight on the 16th of April 2026. I hope all of you had a great checking Robinson Day yesterday and also got your taxes done on that deadline yesterday on tax day. And today on this episode is a honor to have Ted Sobel to be part of tonight's interview episode. We are going to be talking to him about his experience of being a Hall of Fame sports caster slash author and speaker, and he has a bunch of great stories, including a very awesome Zach O'Neil story that he's going to be talking about later on this episode. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this great conversation with me and Ted. So without further ado, let's get things rolling, shall we? All right, everyone, it is now time for the next interview here on the program. Please welcome Ted Sobel. How are you doing, Ted?
Good. Thanks for inviting me, David.
You're welcome. And tell the people about yourself for those who don't know who you are.
You have a couple of hours?
Yes.
Well, I've been in the radio business for over 50 years as a sports reporter mostly. Wrote a book recently called Touching Greatness. You can see that in the background. There's my book. That guy in the...
Oh, yeah, Kobe Bryant. Nice.
Yes, I thought you might know who he is.
Yeah.
And also, again, I cover all sports. I was over at the PGA Tour Champions golf tournament this weekend in Newport Beach, California. And I do everything: hockey, NFL. I covered all the Rams and Chargers games this year. Do a couple of podcasts on YouTube. One of them is called Touching Greatness. Another one is The Inside Blitz. That's an NFL podcast that we do every week during the season. So still staying busy after 52 years in this business.
When you say that out loud, how does that make you feel? Like knowing that you've been around in that type of business for over 5 decades.
How does it make me feel? It makes me feel like I'm glad to still be breathing. That's a long time. So, look, the bottom line is that you earn credibility through your work. And if you're able to do it this long, I guess you're doing something right?
Absolutely. So what inspired you to create your book, and why should people take a read at it, while on their vacations or whatever?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon, called Touching Greatness. I think the main reason I was inspired was a lot of people would say to me, "You got 1,000 stories about everybody. You should write a book sometime." And I kept hearing it and hearing it. So finally I started writing notes and put it aside for a few years, literally just scribbling on pieces of paper little ideas about what stories, if I ever do it. And I just threw it in a drawer. And then during the pandemic, that was the time when it was, I had more time to write.
Yeah.
And I actually started writing a little bit before that, but it came out just after the pandemic, and the timing was best there.
Of course. And what was the favorite part of the process making this book? For however long you've been uh, making it.
Well, it took me about 3 years to write it, and I wrote so much, I actually have enough for 3 volumes. So I only got
Uh,
one out so far, but uh, because I had so many stories. I don't know if I have a favorite part. I mean, I think the reminiscing while you're writing and all the research I had to do to make sure that everything was 1,000% accurate. Um, I remember thinking, what's the best way to do this to research? Because not everything is online. It seems like it is, but it isn't.
yeah.
So what I did was I bought a subscription to newspapers.com, which gives
Okay.
you access to a lot of newspaper articles in whatever papers are in their archives. And I was looking back on things that I wanted to remember the actual facts on, right? So I would type in Dodgers World Series 1963, excuse me, and then there would be articles on whatever I was looking for. So, and then
Yeah.
you'd do more specific stuff. So, yeah, got a lot of research. I would say probably more than half of my writing time, which was hundreds of hours, was actually researching. So, big part of it.
You brought up the Dodgers. Do you think they're good for baseball nowadays with the way they're spending and the way they're able to keep all these veterans for a long time, like a Freddie Freeman, like a Mookie Betts? Do you think that's good for the game of baseball these
I
days?
don't think it's bad because I think baseball needs some kind. I think not just baseball, every sport needs a
Hmm.
team to love or hate, and I
I
think it's
agree with that
important.
one.
So it doesn't matter to me. Look, the Yankees did it for decades. They spent more money than
Yeah.
everybody, and they were the love or the hate team. And they would say, "Oh, I can't stand the Yankees," but when they came to town, you paid for tickets to go see them.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it's not bad for baseball. And anytime you have when the Celtics were great and the before you were born in the NBA in the old days, and the Lakers throughout their few different generations of dynasties.
Yeah.
Dynasties are great for sports.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's, you know, dynasties is what makes people look back on the players on who were on those teams and um, makes something for them to talk about. And and I'll say this about the Yankees part. Um, I hate them, because as a Red Sox fan myself, I hate the Yankees. But um, I only been to one Red Sox Yankees game, and that was back in the 2018 ALDS, and I would love to go to
Probably
another
the
one
best game you've
because
ever been to, right?
it was well, as for Family Park, yeah, that was one of my favorite memories because of the fact that it was the first one since 2004 when they meet up in the playoffs. It was Chris Sale. I forgot who the other pitcher was, but uh, it was just the electric environment in that
Right,
stadium. Just is something I will remember forever,
right.
and
And if it was the
that's
Kansas
why.
City Royals, you would never remember or even care. Nothing
Yeah,
against the Royals, but that's just a reality.
yeah, like the crowd wouldn't care about the Royals because it's not that Red Sox Yankees rivalry.
Right,
They
of
don't have
course.
a rivalry for the Royals, so that's why I love the Dodgers Padres series that they do every single year because the crowd really gets into it with those type of series. With that rivalry being a thing for the past couple of years now, so people are saying it's getting better now than the Giants rivalry, but then again, um, I don't know, but what is your favorite rivalry that you love to watch in sports?
Probably the Lakers and Celtics back,
Okay.
in the '80s and their best years with when Kobe was going against those guys. Uh, eh, there was nothing like it, and I was in the locker rooms, and I would see the bitterness, and they would tell me about their bitterness. So, yeah. But Larry Bird said to me once in 1984. 2004, after a game, after a championship game, or I should say NBA Finals game, uh,
Okay.
he said to me, the Lakers and Celtics are not even close to the rivalry of the Sixers and the Celtics because we play them a
Mm,
bunch of times a year. There's bitterness there. We have
yeah,
no bitterness against the Lakers. We never see them. So that's the way he described it.
I see his point of view there. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
But it's about the
Um,
fans. It's not about the player.
yeah,
Most players don't care about rivalries. It's
yeah,
whatever game they're playing that day. That's a media and fan driven thing. It's not much by the players.
yeah. Especially nowadays with social media going on, where the players can connect with each other, like they're not as mad at each other now. If you go back to pre-social media back in 2004, the Red Sox and Yankees hate each other. But nowadays with social media and everything, um, it's not like it was back then. And plus, they don't meet each other as in the playoffs as much as they were back then. So it's a wholly different thing nowadays. How does sports, become a big passion for you growing up? And what was your favorite sport uh, that got you into sports that became your passion?
Yeah, I wrote about it in my book, Touching Greatness. The fact that my father worked at Yankee Stadium selling popcorn and peanuts when he was about 13 years old, and some guys named
Wow.
Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig were playing at the time. So I grew up. My favorite movie as a little kid was Pride of the Yankees, and I'm not a Yankees fan. Never have been. I'm from L.A., so I have no interest in the Yankees.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that one of my closest friends is their PA announcer, but at
Okay.
Yankee Stadium. But separate from that, um, I love Pride of the Yankees because I used to watch. They would have video of actual games in the movie, and I would look in the stands and see if I could see my father when he was a little
Uh,
kid. He wasn't there, but it was like a little fantasy in my head. So yeah, I got
yeah.
caught up. I was a Babe Ruth fan years after he died because of my dad, and my dad actually met him a few times when he was a little kid. So it was
Nice.
that kind of stuff. We're talking Babe Ruth here, like the god of the game, right? So that
Hmm.
really got me interested. And then growing up in L.A. and born and raised here, um, my father would take me to games as a little kid, and I went to the Coliseum before Dodger Stadium was built, and
Uh-huh.
got a real feel for what it was. And I became a huge Don Drysdale fan. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, he was my guy. So
Absolutely. And now Shohei Ohtani is now like becoming a Babe Ruth of this generation.
yes,
Uh, and do you think you know he can be better than Babe Ruth with the way he's doing right now, or do you think like like we saw it in Game Seven of the World Series where he gave up that home run? I
he's
believe it was
human.
about he's 2%.
Babe Ruth gave up
So
home runs too.
yeah, so it's like people are saying, oh, he can't be better than Babe Ruth. But I'm like, wait until after his career is over because stuff like that can happen.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think we
so
have to wait till his career is over. I think just a few more years of good health, and
yes,
let him pitch where he doesn't have to worry about Tommy John, the old surgery anymore, and that kind of stuff. Uh,
yeah,
in ways, he's already better than Babe Ruth, but it's easier said than done. Let's look at the numbers when it's all over. A lot of
yeah,
guys, because of the money, you don't have to play as long anymore. You're set
uh
for 14 lifetimes. So
yeah.
it's a different world, and I don't compare eras anyway. I think it's ridiculous. It's
It's
it, it's
yeah,
fun, but it means absolutely nothing. What Magic Johnson did is different than what what
Bill Russell.
Elgin Baylor and Jerry West did in the '60s, and what Will Chamberlain did is different than Shaquille O'Neal. And it's ridiculous to compare eras because you can't. Tiger Woods and
Yeah,
Jack Nicklaus, two different eras, different world, different equipment, different everything. So it's
yeah,
fun, but it means nothing.
yeah. It's people say, oh, this player's to go, this player's to go, but look at the eras because let's not forget there's been new teams over the years, and that makes a difference. So, um.
everything
but
makes a difference. It's everything's
yeah,
it's a different, training,
yep.
uh, uh, paychecks, everything's so different you can't even compare them. At ballparks or stadiums or whatever, they're all different.
Speaking of stadiums, what were some of your favorite games that you attended as a fan growing up?
Oh, that's easy. I attended the first World Series game in Dodger Stadium history in 1963. That was Game 3, Dodgers and Yankees, and my guy Don Drysdale was pitching, and my father made sure I was going to go to that game. I was 10 years old, so that I wrote about that in my book. It's funny because you know nobody you wouldn't know this happened unless you lived it or you're an incredible historian. But that game
Yeah,
came it was a 1-0 game in the World Series, and it came down to 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth inning. And Drysdale had already gotten Mickey Mantle out in that inning. And the last out of the game, which my father was already in the car waiting for me to join him, he wanted to beat the traffic, and he's a New Yorker. So he just said, "We
yeah.
need to get out of here." But I said, "I'm not leaving until that last out." And the final out was a fly ball up against the right field bullpen gate that Ron Fairley, the Dodgers right fielder, caught like this with the sun in his eyes. But a lot of people thought it was a home run to tie the game. So, and then it was the last
Oh,
out, and I ran straight to the car, and we beat the traffic. But yeah, that's an incredible game. And the Dodgers swept the Yankees that year.
what were the four teams, of all the four sports that were your favorite growing up, or currently?
Well, since I've been a reporter for the last 50 years, I don't think of favorite teams anymore. You got to be
Yeah.
unbiased if you're in this business. But my four favorite teams were the Dodgers and the Lakers. Okay, and in hockey, the Kings
Mhm.
came here in 1968, so they started when I was 15 years old. Um,
Okay.
and then in football, it was the Green Bay Packers, not the Rams, because they
Oh,
were on TV every weekend, and I became a huge Vince Lombardi and Bart Starr fan. So
nice.
that was fun, and I got a chance to interview Bart uh, several months before he died, which was very special.
Oh, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Um, so about your reporting, or and also broadcasting,
Yep.
tell us the journey that started for you that got you into this business, and the process that lead you where you are today.
Well, the beginning was one of the again. I have another chapter in my book, Touching Greatness, about getting to know Elgin Baylor, who was Michael Jordan before he was a zygote. I like to say. I see you lost my picture. I'm back there. Okay.
Uh,
Anyway,
I see.
yeah. So I became an Elgin Baylor fan, and I ended up meeting him in when I was in high school, and he would take me to games. So it's a fun story there. And I'm sitting in the back seat of his car. He was the best player pound for pound of that era in the 60s. And
Uh-huh.
so he said to me, or actually his wife said to me at the time, "What do you want to do when you grow up, Ted?" I was like in 10th grade or something. And I said, "I'd like to be an NBA player." And they started laughing. I'm 5'7", so I'm not going to be an NBA player. But it felt good in my head. And I was playing high school basketball, but B's and C's, not varsity or JV. I was just too
Yeah.
small, and not I was decent, but not that talented. So um, we started talking about other things, and broadcasting came up, and thought, okay, well, if you're that passionate about sports, why not get into broadcasting? And guess who was my first interview, David, of anybody in the world that I ever interviewed? And I didn't even know what I was doing. I was sticking a microphone back and forth. I didn't have any mic technique. I was just a stupid kid that wanted to interview somebody. And it was Elgin Baylor. He let me interview him first. And we're talking about, he
Nice.
was the Michael Jordan of his era. So that was really special. And it got in my blood, and I wanted to do it ever since. And then I started going to games with my buddy Paul Olden, who's now the Yankees public address announcer. And when we went to LA City College together, and we would go to games and sit in the stands and practice night after night after night of calling games. And
Hmm.
it became, very comfortable to do it after literally hundreds of games.
What was the best game? What was the best games you ever covered as a reporter?
The best games. Well, there's so many of them. There's like several in each sport. I could tell
Hmm.
you, being at Tiger Woods and what's going on with him, it's pretty sure you got to feel fairly sure that he's not going to win again on tour at this stage of his career and what's
Yeah.
going on in his life. Separate from that, I was at his last win at the Masters in 2019 and covered that, so that was great.
Yeah.
And got to interview him afterwards as well. Basketball, there's so many of them. Most of them are I've been to the Super Bowls, and I've been to the Kings winning 2 Stanley Cups, and all of those are great. Kobe Bryant's last game, which was unbelievable, to
Oh
score over
wow.
60 in his final. I
Yeah.
was there for that. But there's just a million of them. And I think the fact that when you're there and you're covering an event, you're not thinking about how special it is. You're thinking about how you're going to work after the game and get the interviews and
Yeah.
get the right questions asked. But you can look back on them now and say, "Wow, that was really, really." I was there for the Eli Manning big win when the Giants beat the Patriots to ruin their perfect season. And I have a
Mhm.
fun story in the book about interviewing David Tyree, who's the one with the helmet catch. You know,
Mhm.
uh, really just fun stuff. So I've been to just tons and tons of great events. So you can't break it down to just one.
How did what was the first job you ever signed up for to get into the business? So what was the people you knew that helped you be that reference for you to get there?
That's a good question. Actually, Bob Miller, the longtime LA Kings Hall of Fame play-by-play voice, who retired a few years ago, he's now in his 80s. Uh, Bob opened the door for me to get a great job. Although my first job, I did it on my own, but I was doing hockey play-by-play. I did that for about 10 years. So my first job was a low minor league team in New England called the
Oh, nice.
New Hampshire Freedoms. We played out of Manchester, New Hampshire, and
Okay.
things were so bad that we moved to midseason to Cape Cod, and then we were the Cape Cod Freedoms for a half season. Played at the old Cape Cod Coliseum, which doesn't exist anymore. Uh, but the next year, I went back to LA and saw Bob Miller at a preseason Kings game. And he said,
Okay.
"Hey, how did it go in New England?" And I said, "Oh, it was okay, but bad owner, bad experience, but great experience because I did it." But
Yeah.
a lot of the negative stuff. And by the way, that was the same league as Slapshot, the old hockey movie was made about. It was the year
Oh,
after
okay.
Slapshot came out. So fun stories to talk about now. Not so fun then, but it's great now. And people love hearing about that. But the second year, Bob opened the door to his old job at the University of Wisconsin.
Mhm.
And he said, mention my name, and I did. And they hired me. They flew me out because mostly because of Bob Miller recommended me, and they liked my
Okay.
tape. And I was working there the next year, voice of Badgers hockey in 1980, and that was the year of the Miracle on Ice. And two of our players were on the Miracle team, and I got a chance to call two of their preseason, pre-Olympic games, I should call it, against
Okay.
Wisconsin. So that was fun to be a part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, you know, it was amazing. Straight up the Olympics, seeing the USA, both men's and women's, went this year. That was pretty incredible.
Not as amazing as the Miracle on Ice, not even close. These teams were pros. The ones
Yeah.
in the ones in 1980, they were all a bunch of college kids, and nobody gave them an ounce of a chance against maybe the best team ever in the Russians then. So
Wow.
it's I don't think of this year as amazing. They were pros.
Yeah.
So that it's not even in the same discussion. But I know it was
Yeah.
fun and it was
Yeah.
nice to see, but it wasn't amazing.
Yeah. As for covering players, um, was there any players that you covered that you knew, like at the beginning of their career, did you predict correctly any players that were going to be in the Hall of Fame that actually did that you predicted at the start of their career?
Boy, that's a tough one because I don't think that way because I covered Tiger Woods when he was 16. I was there when he hit
Mm,
his first shot on a pro tour at Riviera Country Club here in LA, and people were following him around. I interviewed him before that. He was just an invitee.
yeah,
He wasn't on tour. He was just a kid. He was in high school, um, and everybody's saying this guy's a lock. It's like I've seen a million locks that never made it.
yeah,
Because for a lot of reasons, you could be great when you're 16, 17, 18, and maybe the passion goes away or you're burned out as a kid. There's so
yeah,
many different ones. I covered Kobe as a rookie. I didn't predict that he was going to be a Hall of Famer because he didn't even hardly play his rookie season, like hardly
hmm,
at all. He was a
yeah,
teenager. He was 17 when he came to the Lakers. And Jerry
yep,
West saw the talent and he liked him. But how are you going to predict it? Like, he would play garbage time a lot of the times. And he
uh-huh,
was the GOAT, the way I know the word. I grew up with the word GOAT means you're the bad guy in that game or in that sport or whatever. And now it's the greatest of all
mm,
time. You're the GOAT on that play. No, that means that's a bad thing, not the greatest of all time. And he was the GOAT of his first playoff series. He had like
uh,
3 or 4 air balls in the last several minutes in Utah, and I was at that game. Uh,
mm,
and it was like, wow, this guy, he's afraid to touch the ball. He had air balls when they needed
yeah,
him, but he's a kid, so you never know. And then he turned out to be great, and he was tough to deal with for several years because of ego and immaturity, and then he grew out of that and he became great to deal with. So
yeah,
everybody, that's a question that's almost unanswerable because I've seen them all from average growing into a Hall of Famer and from phenomenal growing out of being a Hall of Famer and out of the
yeah,
league. And there's hundreds of those examples.
yeah, 100%. And speaking of basketball,
Yeah.
um, I love the history of the NBA. I think it's terrific on the history, that's been
Do you
around
know much about
forever.
Elgin Baylor? I got to ask you because obviously,
What
unless you watched on YouTube, you wouldn't have a clue. You'd think of him as just a bad Clippers general manager.
oh man, but like I was saying though, I what do you think about today's NBA? Because a lot of players are getting scratched, benched. The Lakers at one point
Not
this
good.
season scratched all their players. I absolutely hate it. Like, how much longer do you think they take this? Because they are robbing the fans. It's ridiculous.
Well, if I was a fan, I was paying a few $100s to go see LeBron James, and he's not even in the building. I'd be pretty pissed. So,
Yeah,
um, look, I don't follow the game as closely as I used to, mostly
yeah,
because I don't like the style they play either. I forget, I mean, Steph Curry is the greatest shooter I've ever seen, but
hmm,
everybody's trying to be Steph Curry,
yeah.
and if you can't shoot a 3-pointer, you're probably not in the league as far as
No,
being a guard is concerned. I don't appreciate the game. John Wooden's turning over in his grave. I don't want to sound like somebody's grandpa saying, "Well, it's not the same as in my day." Well, it's not because it's not
yeah.
basketball. I mean, guys are running all over the place. Everyone should be traveling and they're taking 15 steps and it's like no,
It costs too much money for the
it's
traveling
all
and
about
everything.
it's about entertainment and TV. It's not about the sport anymore. So I
Yeah,
get it, but it doesn't do anything for me. I still enjoy. I love the game, and I watch it sometimes, but I don't watch it like I used to, and I don't cover it anymore. I haven't covered it since before the pandemic. Otherwise, I was there most nights. Lakers and a lot of Clippers.
okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just they need to fix something in the next CPA or whatever because it's like they're robbing the fans, and I just
Yeah, but
and
it's
I
all
just
about
hate it.
money. Everything is about money now.
Yep.
It's not. In the old days, it didn't matter what kind of money you were making, but now, there
Yep.
when the player is making 25 times the amount of their coach, do you think he
I
cares
know.
what his coach says? Do you think he
No.
cares? It's a different world. The,
No.
the coach is a figurehead. He's not he's not
Yeah.
a he's not a disciplinarian anymore. So
Yeah.
or there are examples that can be different in all sports, but most of them are not. This is all about a different generation. It's about clicks. It's about uh, all that
I was
crap.
gonna get into
It
that.
has nothing to do with competition as much
Yeah.
as it used to be.
I actually had this question down regarding the clicks part.
Ask me.
In this in
I
this
want
era,
clicks and you want clicks, but that's for a different reason.
yes. In this era of hot takes, just for clicks, and people to get mad over little things every single day, like the Cowboys or whatever the heck may be. Um, what like what do you think it needs to happen to fix this generation of journalism to get back to where it
It's not going to
was
happen.
better?
Not going to happen. It's too late.
I just
It's
mean I just mean if you were going to fix something, what would you do to make journalism better for the next generation?
I would tell them they're limited how much they can stare at their damn phones.
Yes.
Limited time. Like if you look at your phone, it should be set to like, okay, after a certain amount of time, it just goes dark and you can't look at it. Obviously, that's all dreamland. It's not going to ever happen. But look,
Yeah.
the attention span for the average person is embarrassing. Okay,
Yeah.
people are people on their first dates. They're staring at their phones. Stare at the person across from you. Nobody cares. They're staring at their phones while they're driving. You're going to get
Yeah.
somebody killed, you idiots. I
Yeah.
love my cell phone. It's great. I live on it, but I'm not going to use that as something as a replacement of life. You can't,
I know.
nobody reads books anymore. Nobody pays
No.
everybody. I call it a fast food society. Okay. Everything
Yeah.
I got to have it now and I got to have it fast. And I want to read just a blurb. I don't want to read the whole thing. It's like, what are you doing? Learn. This is why our country's in the trouble we're in because people are not paying attention. And that's
Yeah.
the truth.
Mhm.
We are in trouble. Our democracy's in trouble because I'm not going to get into politics, but if you're paying an ounce of attention, you know what the hell I'm talking about. People don't
Yeah.
care. They just think, oh, they don't learn from experience. They don't learn from history. And that's
No.
what gets you in big trouble. And that's a
Yeah.
reality. Like it or not, folks, that's our world right now.
100%. Do you have any advice for future journalists that want to get you know that hyper or angry at certain things, but at the same time want to be reasonable and um, just be more calmer about certain topics, and and get the fans to actually watch their stuff without being first take where they just talk about the Cowboys every day just to
You're,
get
you're
mad.
talking about for like podcast purposes?
Yeah, like for like reporting on there or whatever the case may be. Yeah,
Um,
regarding sports.
well, I don't get caught up in topics. I mean, to me, obviously if the topic is boring or if the person
Yeah,
doing it is not
that's what I'm talking about.
enjoyable to watch, you're not going to be watched anyway, so it doesn't matter. Uh,
Yeah.
look, I don't have millions of followers. I probably never will. Most of the younger generation, they don't want to hear from a guy in his 70s, no matter what I did, because they don't care. If it's before
Mhm.
they were born, it never happened. And
Yeah.
that's the truth, and that's part of what I just said about learn from history. And if you don't care about
Yep.
history, you're not going to learn anything. Um, just be interesting, just be
Yeah.
interesting, have a personality, show it, be prepared, know what you're talking about, all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, you know.
Yeah. Um. Uh. Has there been any emotional moments that has happened over the years in your career that really touched you?
Uh, Dozens.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm an emotional guy. I'm also into music, and music touches me. I listen to music every day, and it touches me. I feel it in a
Yeah.
different way. I do podcasts, not just sports. I do music too. Um,
Mhm.
one of the things about sports is that it should be emotional. Whether
Yeah.
you're rooting for a team or you're just rooting for good competition, or you have a bet on a game, that's a different kind of emotional. But I think that
Yeah.
it brings different emotions out in people. But I mean, if you're watching, let's just say, like after the Olympics just finished, if you're rooting
Mhm.
for Team USA, whatever the hell it is, whether it's speed skating or hockey, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter anything. I mean, you're into it, right? It's touching you in different ways. One of the reasons I call my
Mhm.
book "Touching Greatness," okay, because it touches people.
Yeah.
Greatness touches people. Like, I've been lucky that I've actually had interactions with over 750 Hall of Famers in sports and entertainment.
Wow.
Start counting to 750, David, and let me know when you're done. That's a lot of people. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So there's
Absolutely.
been emotional moments. I mean, to deal with Kobe after his last game and how the
Oh
emotions
man.
got it, to deal with Tiger when he won his Masters and nobody thought he would ever win another one. Those kinds of things, they're huge, and
Yeah.
you feel it too. I mean, I remember, guy, I have a couple of examples, but I don't know if you have much time, but like
That's
in
okay.
golf, I'm trying to remember their names now because it's been a while. One of the
You're
female
fine.
golfers that'll come to me. I was the 18th green announcer out at the old Kraft Nabisco in Rancho Mirage in the desert in California. So I introduced
Uh-huh.
the girls as they would come up onto the green after their approach shot, right? And they would walk
Yeah.
across a little bridge, and the fans would be along the side and they'd applaud. Okay, blah blah blah. Here's Lexi Thompson, or here's Nellie Corder, or whatever. So one of the women, I can't believe I can't think of her name right now. I'm embarrassed, but
You're fine.
this was a major tournament, right?
Yeah.
And one of the women was on the 18th green, about a putt. Let me see, I can get it about this far from the cup, and she missed it. She barely even
Mm.
touched the cup. That was to win a major. She missed that putt. They had to go to extra hole, and she lost. So
Dang.
I was the 18th green announcer, but I was also there as a reporter for KFWB radio in LA at the time, right? So
Oh
when the
man.
match was over, they gave her, she went in, she filled out her scorecard, signed it, and they walked her over to me for a quick interview, even though it wasn't live, it was just into a recorder. But they knew me, and they said, you can have her before we bring her into the room, where she's just going to get demolished from. It's the hardest thing. Look it up online. I'm embarrassed to say I can't
You're
think of her
fine.
name right now, but look it up online. It's incredible. And she
Man.
walks up to me, and she just started crying. Is that I mean, I knew what to ask her. I've done it more than 1,000 times, but what are you going to say, right? It's hard.
Yeah.
This is the real world, folks. This is her life. This is her
Yeah.
livelihood. This is being embarrassed in front of anybody who ever watched this. And it happens. It's sports, and people screw up, and it's just the
Yeah.
worst timing. But it was like I think it was like a foot, less than 2 feet, the putt.
Wow.
So that was one of the most memorable. And then it was like a couple of weeks. The next golf tournament I covered, I wasn't the announcer there. I was just a reporter. Was down at Torrey Pines, and the guy down there had a 6-shot lead, I think, on the with 4 holes left or 5 holes left. He blew the lead
Oh man.
and hit on 18 and hit it in the water at Torrey Pines. And I think they went into an extra hole and he lost. It was like, I can't believe this is happening to me 2 tournaments in a row. And I was in the
Wow.
interview room, it's like 50, 100 people, whatever it is, in the room. And he's up on the podium. And when they brought him in to talk to us, and I was the first guy who asked the question, and he started crying. And I'm thinking, what am I doing here? I don't want to go to golf tournaments anymore. Back to back, and I'm interviewing the people that are crying. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
life. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Yep.
That's pretty emotional, isn't it?
I know. And that's happens in sports. You
Exactly.
win or lose them. But
The
and
agony of
speaking of
defeat.
sports, yep. And speaking of sports,
Yes.
what is no, out of the 2 months, April or October, which one is better for you? You think it's better, April or October, as for sports as concerned?
Well, I don't think April comes close to October.
Mm,
I
mm-hmm.
actually I prefer even other times of year. I mean, April, you got you're still working on March Madness at the end of March now,
Yeah.
uh, and the start of the start of baseball. But the start of baseball is great. Opening day. After that, it's like give me a call in 4 months.
Uh-huh.
It's every damn day, So I don't think there's anything special about April. The playoffs obviously are starting but the start of the playoffs, I would more talk about, let's just say, June and October's fine. But if you're not into the World Series, it's like, okay, so you already started football, but you're in week 5 or something, so that's
Yeah.
nothing special. So I don't see either one as being that outrageously special, to be honest. Maybe I'm just
Okay.
I've been doing it too long. I don't know.
Yeah. Um, for anyone who wants to get started,
Yeah.
being a journalism, for those who are not in college, mind you, let's say like sometime in the next year or so, any advice would you give them? Of I want them to get started, in either journalist, journalism, being a broadcaster or an announcer, any of those things. Any advice would you give them?
Well, if
From
they're
a
not in college, I suggest they go to a junior college or something just to take basic broadcast journalism. Um, it's funny because I have to evolve myself in this business. If you told me even 15 years ago, you're going to be doing only podcasts, I'd be saying that's insane. There's no way. I'm a radio reporter. Why would I be doing podcasts? Now I'm doing
yeah,
podcasts. So, you have to evolve with society. So that's what I'm doing. But yeah, I would look, as I told you, we used to go to games and practice over and over. Depends what you want to do. If you're not interested in doing play by play and you just want to do shows like we're doing right now or whatever your interests are, do it.
mhm,
It doesn't. You could do it on whatever platform. Nobody's going to be watching, but you, and do it. Do it with a friend. Interview a friend.
mhm,
Interview, people whatever, about
yeah,
anything, and practice. You got to practice because the
yeah,
first few times you're going to do it, you're not going to be good. I don't care how good you are. You're not going to be good,
yeah,
right? So you got to do it over repetition. Again, I said it before. Be prepared. You're going to do an
yeah,
interview, prepare for the interview. Know the subject.
yep,
If you're going to
yep,
interview anybody, be a good listener. You're not a
yeah,
good interviewer if you're not a good listener. You can't
yep,
be. It's not possible. So all those
mhm,
things in one, but practice, 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 practice. Do it over and over again because you're going to look at it. You're going to say, God, that's awful. But nobody's
yeah,
watching. So who cares? Critique
mhm,
yourself honestly. Say, is that something that I would watch?
yeah,
Right? I'm talking
mhm,
podcast now. You
mhm,
might end up in writing and all kinds of other stuff. But again, even if
yeah,
you want to get into broadcast journalism as a writer or something, working for who knows whatever, uh, you gotta have some basis of education doing it,
mhm,
and read. Don't just read
yeah,
blurbs. Read books from people who did it great. You know,
mhm,
learn something. If you want to be a
yeah,
writer, read Jim Murray's books. You probably don't even know who Jim Murray was, do you? And that
mm,
nothing against you. He's
it's
been
okay,
long gone.
yeah,
He was a great newspaper columnist in the Los Angeles Times, considered by most as the greatest ever. Right? Buy a book
Mm-hmm.
by Jim Murray and read his. There's I don't know the name of it. You can look it up. Like a lot of his columns are in the book. That's
Okay.
great writing.
Yeah.
And if somebody older like me doesn't tell you, you're not going to know who he was. But if you read it, you're going to say, wow, people don't write
Mm-hmm.
like that anymore. Why not?
Yeah.
Because they don't know. I learned from listening to Vin Scully, okay, Chick Hearn, Bob
Mm-hmm.
Miller, three of the greatest announcers in their sport ever. For sure, that Vin and Chick. Vin was the greatest baseball. Chick was the greatest basketball. It's not even close. It's not even debatable in my mind. Okay, because I lived through the
Yeah.
generations, and that's how lucky am I to grow up in Los Angeles, listening to them since I was this big. So
Mm-hmm.
um, you, not that I became them, but a little of that rubs off on you. You know what great sounds like. People that grow up in some areas with lousy broadcasters, you don't know what great sounds like. You think maybe that's good, but it's pretty average at best.
Yeah.
So that's important.
And I hate it when people do interviews and whatever the answer they give, you don't ask them a question about their answer. I hate it when people do interviews and they don't do that. Like they answer a question for you, but then they don't ask a question
Follow up,
about
you're
that
talking
answer.
about.
Follow up. Yes,
Yeah,
excuse me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's also it's what I just said, David. It's
Hmm.
listening. If you're not a good
Yeah.
listener, you're not a good interviewer. Period. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen. I don't care how great your questions are, because talking opens up other avenues to questions. If
Amen.
you're paying attention, the guy might give you 5 questions in his response. Say, "Oh, I want to ask about that. I wanted that. Look at how passionate he mentioned that." That's a
Yeah.
good interviewer.
Yep. Um. So, about your podcast,
Yeah.
what tell the people what the podcasts are about and what days and what times you air them.
Okay. Well, there are different days and times because they're more random now. I don't have a specific
Okay.
time. My regular Touching Greatness, I'm calling it the 50th anniversary tour, because
Very nice.
over 50, and I've got a lot of sports and entertainment guys. I did you. I don't know if you know the name, probably not, but I know you've heard his music, even if you didn't know it was him. I
Hmm.
had a guy named Leland Sklar on my show last week. Okay,
Okay.
he's a Hall of Fame bass player, and
Nice.
he's played on over 2,600 albums, which is insane. I mean, that's
Wow.
crazy. And we're talking like all time great, not all 2,600, of course, but he played for James Taylor uh,
Yeah.
and Phil Collins
Yeah.
and just Linda Ronstadt and just so many greats over the decades. So he lives here in LA and he did my show. We did 90 minutes last week. Great stories, great music, a lot of good. And we're gonna do a part 2. I've had Robbie Krieger of the Doors on my show. He's
Okay.
he's the lead guitarist of the Doors, wrote Light My Fire for anybody who remembers that era. Um, and so
Mm.
besides the great athletes, like this past week, I had Eric Dickerson on, former Hall of Fame LA Ram running back, right? And
Okay.
now he's just a retired guy who plays golf 3-4 times a week. But he was at the Pro Am that I was at. John Daly, the golfer,
Hmm. What
right?
about it?
So he
Hmm.
was in John's foursome this week. So I had
Okay.
John on the show as well, doing a little. I did a short video. It's fun to look on my Touching Greatness YouTube channel. He hits a tee shot off of a beer can and crushes it. Then picks up the can and takes a drink. Anyway, just fun stuff like that. But and then I do my NFL show during the season. It's called the Inside Blitz. Usually it's Thursdays at noon Pacific time.
Okay.
Sometimes it moves around depending on our availability and stuff. So I've done that for 4 years. A lot of great guests and guest
Awesome.
analysts on the show. So, but I've covered the NFL since the 1974 LA Rams. So I go way back.
Nice. Nice. Um, is there a favorite Super Bowl that you covered?
Oh yeah, the one I
Which one?
mentioned.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah, oh, by far. Because
Nice.
my interaction with David Tyree and Eli Manning, I have a great story about Eli Manning when he was the MVP of the game and he came off the
Yeah.
field, walking through the tunnel to go to the locker room, and got to get my book to read to know the whole story. But he was
Yeah.
rudely taken away from me. I've never met the man in my life. I was standing there. It was just me and him and four suits around him. And he started to do an interview with me and then was rudely taken away from me. Remember the running back for the Giants who just retired before that happened? Guy by the name of Tiki Barber.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And his twin brother Rondé was a great player too for Tampa Bay. Tiki was very rude, jumped in there, was working for the Today Show with NBC with his microphone, and just basically took him away from me. And Eli Manning, it's a long story, and it's one of my favorite stories in all of sports ever. But Eli did he and Tiki Barber were not on good terms at this time. Tiki saying, "Oh, he's never going to lead him to a Super Bowl because he's not a great leader, blah blah blah, and he's not that great of a player." And then all of a sudden, he beats Tom Brady and stops the 18-0 streak, right? And then everybody's saying, "No, I think he can be." He can do it. And then all of a sudden, Tiki's kissing his ass. He wants to do an interview with him. And Eli was nice, and he did it. He was very generous with his time. And as he left the interview, there were like 100 people, 100 reporters standing around. And Eli's looking around, and he saw me standing in the corner, and he walked all the way over to the far corner, put his arms around me. He says, "Let's finish what we were doing." And he was the MVP of this. I didn't even know him.
Yeah.
It's a great story. It's really amazing. Then I saw David Tyree in the locker room afterwards, and we got a good laugh over that. I told you, and nobody even knew the hell David Tyree was before that game.
Yeah.
So I got great stories about that one.
Is there any memorabilia that you collected over the years that you like to show before we go off the air?
Oh, memorabilia. Well, there's stuff right behind me. Can you see that basketball over my head?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that one.
Right over there. That's a signed ball by the 1972 Lakers team that won 33 straight and won the NBA championship. So that's a fun one.
Nice.
You see the Doors thing over my shoulder there? The sign that says the Doors on top, right there.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a metal thing that talked about one of their live concerts. That's signed by Robbie Krieger. He's a friend, and on the 60th anniversary of the Doors. But I have so many things there.
What about that microphone?
That microphone is a the Radio Anchor Staff Award, KFWB. We won as a team. We won a record 10 years in a row. We won Best Anchor Sports in Los Angeles. Yeah, but I just have so many things here. That Wisconsin. Let's see, I can move it over here a little bit. That helmet, because I was the Wisconsin hockey announcer, not basketball or football, but that one was right from one of the players. They gave that to me, but that's a long time ago. That's just behind my head. I got about 1,000 things. Actually, you want to look at this stuff, you can go on my website at tedsobel.com or touchinggreatness.com. It's the same. And I got a lot of stuff put up there as well. You'll see it.
Nice. Is there a particular one that you were most proud of that you collected?
Wow. I would say when I was a little kid, I have autographs. I have 2 autograph books that hundreds of autographs back in the 60s and 70s. I don't even know what that would be worth. A lot of them are long gone now, and who knows. But I used to collect autographs after games. But my dad, for my 13th birthday,
Hmm.
got me autographed baseball signed by Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale. So those are
I,
pretty special.
I actually have a Colfax one myself that I got a present for. I gotta show you
Right.
guys sometime once I found that. Um,
Yeah,
but
so those are
as
special.
yeah, as for me, not really, um, collected, autographs or whatever. But as for pictures, taking with players. The one that I'm most proud of is David Ortiz because he's my favorite baseball player, and I was at a uh, like one of those family fests or winter weekend
Right.
as it was called back then. Now it's called Family Fest, but it was very special meeting David Ortiz because he's my favorite player of all, baseball player of all time, and he was one of the main reasons why he helped the Red Sox win the World Series back in
Of course.
2004.
I do have a collection of I don't know if you know what first day covers are. They're postal envelopes, right?
Okay.
They have
Yeah.
the smaller one and the larger one, the
Yeah.
business envelopes. And
Mhm.
they have most of them are sports, some of them are music, but most of them are sports. It might be a picture of I don't know, just name anybody. Kobe, for example,
Yeah.
or Tiger Woods. Tiger signed like, I don't know, 15 of them for me through his foundation because I used to cover it. And he says, I'll sign a bunch of them for you. And that's just for my
Oh, nice.
collection, you know. Um, and same with Kobe. He signed a few as well, or
Yeah.
Shaq or Jerry West or, just going way back. I got hundreds of those in every sport signed
Yeah.
by whoever is on the actual envelope. So it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah. Shaq is a very funny guy.
He's a great guy too.
Mhm.
Let me give you a quick Shaq story, okay? Real
Yep.
quick.
Before we head
Okay.
off.
Yep. So Shaq is on the back here. He also is an endorser of my book. All right.
Okay.
Only Hall of Fame endorsers on my book. So tried to get him, tried to reach him because he said he would do it, but I don't have a cell phone, right? So
Yeah.
I don't just call Shaq up. I don't have his number. So one day I heard he was going to be at he used to have a restaurant in downtown LA across the street from where the arena is where the Lakers play.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't even know it. I'd never been in there. So I had no idea he had a restaurant. So he was going there for a special occasion. So I went there that day to it was like a week before we had to get everything done for my publisher to say, okay, we're done. No more editions. We're printing now, right?
Yeah.
So Shaquille comes out of the place. It's a long story. It's a great story, but too long. But anyway,
It's okay.
I see him coming out of his restaurant, and he walks in. I was waiting for 3 hours. They were at a private party, so I wasn't invited in there, and I didn't belong in there. I asked them. They said he'll come out, and I'm sure you'll find him, and he
Okay.
knows me. So anyway, so he came out, and these two kids are talking to me for like 20 seconds. While they're talking to me, he's walking out. You can't miss Shaquille O'Neal walking out of a restaurant
Yeah.
when I'm like 50 feet away or something, right? A big black limo comes flying up. The door opens. He's got a guy standing there, opens the door for him. And I see him getting in. It's like, you got to be kidding. I've been waiting 3 hours for him, and he's about to whiz off into the world, and I'm going to miss him.
Uh,
And that's my last chance. There's no way I'm ever going to see him.
yeah.
Anyway, I wandered over to the car as they were revving it up. I mean, they were leaving, right?
Yeah.
And they had his body. Yeah, it looks like a bodyguard. He's standing behind the limo. And
Hmm.
before you know it, the window rolls down. I was so lucky. He saw me standing there. He goes, "What the hell are you doing here?" I said, "I've been waiting for 3 bleeping hours for you." And he says, "Are you serious?" And I told him, I said a few years ago, I mentioned I was doing a book. I couldn't reach you. I said, I was hoping to, tell you if we're going to do it, I need it now because they're about to go to print.
Yeah.
And he says, "Give me your card. I will call you in the morning. I promise you." Okay. So that was
Hmm.
nice, right? That's the small part of it. So he goes, "Nice to see you again." I hadn't seen him for a few years. Boom. They drive off. I think they were driving right to the airport. They were flying up to San Francisco for a Golden State game
Yeah.
the next night. So he did his thing. He was very nice about it. It's like, okay, let's see if he comes through and calls me the next morning, right? So I drive home in the traffic because it's late in the afternoon. I want to be there all day in downtown LA, which is a
Yeah.
lot of traffic. So I get home, and about an hour after I'm home, I turn on Sports Center. And the first story, David, on Sports Center, Shaquille O'Neal's sister just died.
Oh
The
no.
first story. So it's like, wow. I mean, obviously I feel for him, but I could forget about him calling me the next morning. That's not going to happen in a million years.
Yeah.
He's got more priorities than me.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not close friends or anything, just, professional acquaintances.
Uh-huh.
And I've dealt with him a million times over the years. So anyway, bottom line is the next morning I get a call from his office. He has offices in Las Vegas. And they said, Shaquille asked us to call you. He wants to take care of it. How's that? And then that's how he ended up on my book.
That's amazing.
What kind of a guy would do that, huh?
I know.
Class act, right?
Especially with everything he was going through, whatever that was.
Yep. So anyway, so that's a special story I like telling. It's not in the book. It's about the man, and he needs to get to be observed for who he is. Anyway, 100%. That's it.
That's a great way to end this here with that story.
Good. Well, thanks for the time. I appreciate you. Yeah. Your interest in my story.
Yeah. You're welcome. And where else can they find you on social media? Other than
on YouTube, on Instagram at Ted Sobel Sports, just like it is in front of my face there on the screen. Mm-hmm. So it's YouTube and also TikTok.
Yeah.
And Instagram.
Is there any other appearances on shows that you do every week, or that people can check out as well?
I do stuff like this all the time. If you Google my name, you'll be sick of seeing how much I'm on. So I'm all over the damn place. But mostly I'd like doing my shows and the shorts on YouTube and TikTok now. Doing a lot of fun stuff. Football, golf, some hockey.
Baseball?
Not as much baseball. Not as much. Okay. I'll do some. I did a few Dodger things before spring training. But I got a lot of stuff that's already archived on my channel. You'll see. I did an interview with Dave Roberts, Dodgers manager, before the season started last year. He came on my show. So a lot of great stuff.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. But with that being said, thank you for being on here. It was a pleasure to hear your stories, as it was by myself. It was great getting to hear it. My favorite was that sad one at the end. That was very a very amazing thing that he did there for you.
Save the best for last.
Yes, 100%. And that'll be it for this interview.
Are you looking for the most fun entertainment on YouTube? Then welcome to the Network 3000. We have game shows, vlogs, live streams, podcasts, live shows, sport videos, gaming videos, plus more. Subscribe today. We hope you enjoy the Network 3000 on YouTube.
All right, people, it's now time for the next year not good jackpot with Mason. How you doing, Mason?
Hello.
Are you ready to get started with the not good jackpot tonight?
Yes, I am.
All right, without further ado, let's get started. All right, here we go. Welcome to the unknown. Okay, so here we go. So when playing on this game, it's going to take a while of guts, a while of luck, and of course, a great sense of timing. So without further ado, let's bring in the cases. Game, please.
All right.
Here are the 26 cases, and of course, there are 26 of them of money amounts that we don't know what's inside. But we do know that is no, we do know there is a grand prize up there of $50 million. We have reached our limit of $50 million, so we cannot go further than that. Here in this game, as it goes all the way down to a single penny. So what case do you want to keep that hopefully has $50 million, Mason?
I'm gonna say 13.
We're beginning well on 13, so we hopefully case number 13 has $50 million. But in order to determine that, we gotta up to 25 cases. So it's one of those, not in yours. Now, pick your 6 cases all at once, right now.
Okay. I'm gonna do 2, 9, 24, 25, 18, and 12.
Okay. Number 2, $50,000. Number 9, a penny. Number 20.
Oh!
The jackpot lives on. 25. 1,250,000. Number 18. Okay, 20 million. Number 12, 3,750. Not that grand for round, but let's see what the first offer is tonight as we have 50 seconds to make your decision. $956,000. Deal or no deal?
No deal.
Alright, no deal. Five cases all at once now.
Okay. I want to do 4, 11, 6, 1, and 8.
Alright, number 4. 10 million. Number 11. Oh boy, 5 million.
Uh-oh.
1,250. Okay. Number 1, 2,500. And number 8, $250,000. Okay. Alright. Let's see what the next offer is. And it is $1,057,000. Deal or no deal?
You know what? I want to take my luck. I'm going to do no deal.
Alright, no deal. Don't forget, there's still $37.5 million in play so far.
Alright.
4 cases.
Okay, 3, 26, 16, and 10.
Alright, let's start number 3. Open the case. 37,500. Number 26. $3,750,000. Come on, left side, please. 16, $25,000. And number 10, does it have the $50? Nope, but it's $15,000. About a round. All right. Third offer coming up. $2,553,000. Deal or no deal?
No deal.
Okay. No deal. Alright, 3 cases now.
I'm gonna do 7, 17, and 5.
Alright. Number 7 contains only $5,000. Number 17, $500. And number 5 has, alright, $500,000. But still, that was a good round. You knocked up more amounts on the left side than the right side that time. And the board is even with 4 amounts on each side. Next offer, $6,242,000. Wow, $1,000. 50 seconds. Deal or no deal?
No deal.
All right, no deal. Yes, as you can see, the board is even with 4 amounts on each side of the board. And now we're going down to 0-2 cases.
Okay. I'm gonna pick 19 and 14.
All right. Number 19 has. There you go, $10,000. And number 14. Oh, man. $25 million. But the board is even again with $37.5 million still in play. That is what you want to leave her with. $6,581,000 that went up. Deal or no deal?
All right. No deal.
No deal. Okay. You know what to do now. 1 case at a time for the rest of the game.
I'm gonna say 20.
Number 20 contains. Oh boy. $15 million. Not over yet. $37.5 million and $2.5 million still in play. With the next offer of $5,955,000. Deal or no deal?
No deal.
No deal.
Okay.
1 case.
I'm gonna do 15.
Number 15. Does it have the $50? No, but it's $20,000. Okay. That's pretty good. Yeah, 25% chance of winning $37.5 million. The next offer of $8,160,000. $37.5 million is still in play. Simply with $2.5 million. Do we have the guts to go all the way? Deal or no deal?
No deal.
It does have the guts to go all the way here so far. But it all depends on what happens in the next rounds. It could change with his guts. 21, 22, or 23?
I'm gonna say 21.
Number 21. What does it happen there? Oh boy, $2.5 million. Now you're in the danger zone, Mason. You don't want to leave here less than $250 if you knock off the 37.5 million. So be careful with the decision here. $12,375,000. Be careful with this decision, Mason. Deal or no deal?
Deal.
Alright, he's taking the deal for $12,375,000. What a great turnaround there. And now we have to see if that was a good deal or not. You still have the $37.5 million on the board there. If you said no deal to that, your next choice would have been what, 22 or number 23?
All right. I think it probably would have been 23.
23 would have had $50. And the next offer would have been a little bit up $19,312,000. So here's the situation. There are two cases left. One case is $37.5 million, and the other case $250. Which one is it? $250. You made the right decision to leave where you were at.
Ooh.
You made the right decision, Mason.
Oh,
And that is all
yes.
that matters. $37.5 million was the number 22. And that will be it for this episode of the Unknown Jackpot. We'll see you all next time, and hopefully $50 million will be given away. We'll see what happens. See ya.
See you guys.
All right, people, that is going to wrap this up here on this episode of the Great Thousand Hangouts for the 16th of April, 2026. I want to personally thank Ted for participating on tonight's episode and also for doing that interview with me. It was a great, fantastic time talking to him about his stories, and it was fantastic, and it's amazing uh, um, the career he had in general, of something that he loved doing. And that is something everybody should take from. If you love what you're doing at your job, you're never working a day of your life, which is something I've been told a few times in my life. And that is something I want to achieve in my life, hopefully in years to come, where I'll be able to achieve that goal of doing something for a living that I would love to do. Um, because it'll also make you happier, and getting paid while doing it at the same time is fantastic, fantastic. But it takes a lot of time to get there first, and that is the most important thing because you need a lot of experience, you need a lot of years in the making. It's not that easy. Heck, I don't even have a job right now. I didn't even go to college, but there's plenty of people who got to the where they wanted to be without college. So that's something hopefully I'll be able to achieve. But we'll just have to see what happens. But go check out David in the Evenings on Red Radio tonight. And I also put on my Etsy store Cool Stuff by DMS, which is back putting on some listings, there's a request for a past episode and a brand new episode that only you can hear. So if you're willing to check that out on my Etsy store, Cool Stuff by DMS. If you guys want to check out what I like to do on my radio shows, in the evenings, which a new episode is coming up next on Red Radio at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. But with that being said, good night, everyone.